I have been a master gardener for about 7 years now. I grew up thinking about and eating and loving tomatoes. Mom always had a tomato garden for my whole life, no matter what. Whatever else was going on, we had to have tomatoes. So, how many of you have grown tomatoes before?
Successfully?
I tried. I tried.
I'm glad you're here then. Has anybody grown them but not here?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing I want to tell you about is the growing seasons. Up north, you guys grow from spring through the summer, and you're harvesting by the end of the summer or in the fall. First freeze, your tomato plants are done, right? Mm-hmm. Different, completely opposite that here. Here we have 2 seasons. They are fall and spring. We grow through the winter. We do not grow tomatoes in the summertime, with one exception, which is this one, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later. So it's a real adjustment. And I will say growing tomatoes is not easy here. We have a lot of pests and diseases. You know, Miami is the gateway to America from South America. That's like an official name for it. And because we don't have the cold weather that knocks things back and kills some of them, they just, you know, they flourish all year round. And that's a real struggle to deal with. So you have to really make your mind up, I'm going to do everything that I can to make this happen. I grew about 24 plants, and I had probably 400 pounds of tomatoes last year. Ooh. And I had to replant the garden twice because of weather. So I'm going to tell you a few things I do. You may disagree. This is a really short class, so if you have a question that I can give you a quick answer to, I'll be thrilled to do that. If it's something that we need to talk about a little bit longer, we'll talk after, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, so you know you have to plant at the right time. That is August 15th for the fall, and February for the spring. Now, we were just reclassified here in Highlands County. I'm not sure everybody who's here is from Highlands County, but we were just classified from a 9B to a 10A. It's a small difference, but it means that they think tropical plants will grow here that we didn't believe would, earlier. So you can take that, but not as gospel. There are also microclimates here. You may know that right down the road from you, they have no problem with cold, and then you're in a little spot that just seems to get colder than it. We're in a spot where it rains all around us. We're on 20 acres, and we see rain all the time, and it doesn't get to us. And we are a little bit colder than you would think that we would be. We're near the Spring Lake area. So you have decisions to make. Do you want to start them from seed, or do you want to go and buy plants? And there are advantages to both of those. If you're just doing a small garden, a few plants, you're probably going to want to go and look for stuff at the gardening center. One issue I have with that is there are quite a few there. They're sold nationwide, and they just don't do very well here. One of the ones that you can see in almost any place that's selling tomato plants is Celebrity. That was an All-America Selections winner back in 1995. It's an oldie, but still a goodie, and that's one I would not hesitate to buy if you're buying plants. There are a few others, and one thing, and we're going to talk about it in a bit, one advantage to buying the seeds and starting them yourself is that you can look for a variety that has mega disease resistance. That is one of the biggest battles that you're going to fight, is the diseases. And there are techniques for that. So if you're transplanting your tomato plant, how deeply would you plant this? Anybody want to tell me? Would you plant it like right here with ground level?
I think I've heard you bury a third of the plant.
You can vary quite a bit of this. And all you have to do is go down here and pinch off. Start at the bottom. I don't want to do that because I'm going to use this for a propagation plant and I need some of these parts. But you would take the bottom off, and as far as you can go, you could go like up to here, maybe even up to here. Put this stem down in the ground and it's going to grow roots. And that's going to give you a much sturdier plant because it has a bigger root base. Please don't do this with anything else. It doesn't work with eggplant or peppers. You just have the plant rot out. But it's something really special about tomatoes that you can do. You can also take cuttings. Now, I'm not sure how well you guys can see this, but in between the leaves, the little branches, we have little tiny new branches starting out. These are called spores. No, they're not. Okay, we have a brain issue here, but it'll come to me in a little bit. Suckers, thank you. Sport is something else we need to talk about. So you can actually cut these off, stick these in a pot of dirt, and you have a free plant. Now, if you leave them on, you will have more tomatoes because they'll grow out and they'll set seeds and you'll have flowers, and you'll have tomatoes from this. But there's a difference. If you take those all off, you're going to have larger tomatoes. If you leave them on, you'll have more tomatoes, but they won't be as large. So that's just a choice you have to make. You can also, when you're going through this, you can cut the top off. If it's like getting so tall that it's a hassle for you, and you want to try and contain it, you can prune it down. That's not going to hurt a thing. Whatever you cut off, new plant. I want to talk a little bit about growing from seed. Even if you're not up for that right now, you may be ready to do that at some point. And there are some really important things. And they also apply to selecting a plant at the garden center. Would you take one and pass that down to everybody? If you want them, you can have them. They are not fresh seed. They might be okay, but you can keep it if you want. If you don't, just leave it on the table at the end. So what you're looking at has so much information that you really, really need. The first thing you're seeing on here is, this is aroma. It's not just aroma, it's aroma VF. That means they have retweaked it to develop some disease resistant. This is resistant to verticillium and fusarium. To me, that's not good enough at all. That is not good enough. There are some big problems in the soil, and we're going to get to those when we start talking about diseases. Actually, no, let's do it right now. One of the biggest problems, we have nematodes. Those are microscopic ground worms. They live in the soil. They never get killed over the winter.
Thank you.
If you have grass near your garden, even before you plant it, those guys are just right around there in the grass waiting. And they're underground, and they're microscopic. You're not going to see them with your bare eye. But when your plant starts, instead of continuing to grow and get bigger and be productive, when it seems like it's stopped growing and maybe it's even withering a little bit, a lot of time that is a problem with the nematodes. They're also called root knot nematodes. And what happens with them, they invade the roots of the plant and they form a colony. And they intercept water and nutrients before they can ever get to the plant. So that's really one important aspect. The way that I deal with it, and there used to be one product that was taken off the market because it wasn't safe, and I hate to say that I used it, but I was clueless. And it would fumigate the soil. Well, we don't have that anymore available, even if we would want to do it. But there's a product that you can put on there that is organic, and it really helps with them. And that is, and I left it at home, I meant to bring it, it's diatomaceous earth. That's diatomaceous. This is little diatoms, little tiny organisms in the seed, and they're ground up into a very, very fine powder, like maybe coffee creamer. But what you can't see is that they have jagged edges, that cut through those little guys. So you put, what I do is I put, for each plant, I put at least a tablespoon directly into the soil. If you're using that, watch your wind direction or put a mask on. You don't want that in your lungs, just because you don't want to, cut up your lungs. Other than that, it's perfectly safe. You can put your bare hands in it and stuff. It won't hurt you, and it's going to make a difference. It's definitely going to make a difference.
Is that the same stuff that they use at swimming pool filters?
I don't know. Is it? I know people sprinkle that on their dog food. Well, dogs get worms, and I know quite a few people do that, and it's not killed anybody. We are not recommending that here, though.
Aren't there two different kinds, though? One that is safe for consumption and one that's not?
Quite possibly, yeah. That's a really good point. Okay, so we're back to the seed pack. Important things to know. Let's say you are going to do your own seeds, which gives you just myriad varieties. I get a bunch of catalogs every year. Each of you should have a list, and it's a fall 2024 garden chart. I forget what I called it. That's actually
Garden
mine.
plan, fall 2024.
Garden plan. Okay, that's mine. I really get into trying to evaluate what each plant has done. I try new ones every year, and I have old favorites. So if you look at the names on there, those are actually varieties that I really like, and I've selected them for flavor and disease resistance. There's another factor that comes into it, though, and that is the time of year. Let's say you start your seeds in August. You can't really put those in the ground until 6 weeks later, and that is right at the beginning of October. Well, let's say you want to do seeds and you don't get them in until the middle of September rather than August. That's going to push everything back. You have 6 weeks for the seeds to sprout. And then the important thing on the back of this, it tells you how long it's going to take to germinate. The one I have says 7 to 10 days. That means add a week onto the 6 weeks. You need a week for it to germinate and then 6 weeks for it to thrive until it's big enough to put in the ground. That information is here on different vegetable packets. It's going to, or flowers, anything. It's going to tell you what is relevant to that particular seed. It's pretty standard for tomatoes, about a week. Peppers take 2 weeks usually. They take a little longer, so if you're putting those in at the same time, you're going to go back another week and just do your peppers first, and a week later put your tomatoes in. So it tells you how long it takes to germinate, and then it tells you days to harvest. Does everybody see that? This particular variety is 75 to 80 days. There are some that take as little as 55 days. There's a variety I found this year, and I haven't harvested yet, but its name is 42 days. I'm very, very interested in that one. Why does this matter? What happens around December here? What happens with the weather?
It starts to get a little cold.
And we can have frosts. Sometimes we have really, really cold freeze. But if you have selected the right variety and you've done the math, here's how many days it's going to take for me to be harvesting my tomatoes. You know when to start them, you know when to put them in the ground, and you know a 90-day variety, maybe it's going to work within your time frame, maybe it isn't. Then you go look for something that has less. Now, if you go online to any site that sells seeds, they're going to give you this information, and I recommend whatever you decide. If you look at a catalog, every single variety is described as just wonderful and the most delicious, right? And pretty much what I've tried, I won't grow them if they're not delicious, but you can fall in love with them, but you have to look at these factors and see, am I going to lose all those tomatoes just when they're about ready to harvest because I put them in at the wrong time, or I selected one that takes too long to produce? The same thing happens in your spring season. Now, we talked about the earliest planting date, which was, anybody remember?
August 15th.
August 15th. And September 15th is okay. That's usually where I'm at because I'm always behind times. But you can start them in August. And in what we're looking at in the winter garden is, and we call it spring, is the last average frost date for this area. If you're not from here, you're going to have to look up, find out what your planting zone is, and then query last average frost date for that. Let's say you're in zoning. Here, it is between January 31st and February 10th. So your spring garden, you want it to go in, I usually go the 10th, the 15th, and this again, by May, your plants are cooking here. So look at the timing to harvest that and make sure you pick something that you're going to be able to take into your house and put in your salads before they burn up in the heat. They will not set fruit if the temperatures overnight are high. So you've got to, you really, like I said, this is a challenge here, but it'll work for you. As long as you kind of spend some time thinking about these aspects. Okay, so now let's talk about the types of plants or seeds that you could purchase. The first division in them is open pollinated or hybrid. Open pollinated includes heirloom tomatoes, but all it means is that it produces seeds that will grow a plant that's true to the mother plant. You can collect seeds and use those, and you'll get the same plant. Hybrid is always a cross between at least two varieties, and they do that to get some desirable aspects or characteristics. That's where you're going to find the most disease resistance, is in hybrids. And there's been so much work going on with them that there are wonderful, delicious varieties. Up at the University of Florida, Dr. Klee has been working for years on taking heirloom tomatoes and hybridizing them to make sure they are delicious and have good disease resistance. You can find those in the nurseries. They are labeled proven winners. And that's what where you'll go to find the Klee tomatoes. So open pollinated, yes, use the seeds. Hybrid, don't use the seeds. So another division has to do with how it grows and when it produces the fruit. You have indeterminate. Plant keeps going for a long time. It doesn't have kind of a stop valve. And so they'll get really tall and they will produce fruit for you over a long period of time. Determinate has it has kind of a stop or a slow down button for it. They will grow to a certain point and produce a bunch of fruit. And they don't produce it all and die immediately. They'll last for a little while, but not as long as an indeterminate one. The ones I would pinch off if I were doing it would probably be the indeterminates. There's also a variety called semi-determinate, and guess what that means? It's kind of in the middle, and Celebrity, which I mentioned earlier, is a semi-determinate. So we already talked about the time to get to harvest. Disease resistance. Now you guys have some handouts there if you took them. There are a couple things about diseases on tomatoes and also just pest management in the vegetable garden. There is way too much going on there for me to talk about everything that your stuff can get. If you want color pictures and you're comfortable with doing computer queries, go online and query tomato diseases plus University of Florida. You will get a document that has pictures of every disease that they know about and exactly what that's going to look like on your plant. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. Print that up, take it with you. I killed quite a few trees for you today, so I just didn't feel comfortable doing that because that'll have to be in full color if you want to get the benefit of it. Okay, what else is on here that you need to know? Depth. Tells you 1/4 inch on it. And when I'm planting them, I should bring some over. Hang on a second, let me bring some of the things that you have as optional for starting disease. They're right back here. There's 2 trays and there's a bag of peat pots and a bag of little spongy starters. I don't recommend putting in a pot or a tray or whatever you're going to use for your seeds. I do not recommend using even compost. Get some seed starting mix. It's well drained, it's sterile, it's got nutrients for the plant once the seeds start. And these are just different things you can use. Small seeds like tomatoes, you could do this or something a little bit larger. Or you could even do this. The deal with this is you're not going to let those little cuttings or seedlings dry out completely. You can't drown them, but you have to make sure they get water. If you're using a little bigger receptacle, it's going to, maybe the roots aren't long enough yet to get to all that damp soil. And it can dry out and then they're really in trouble. These are easier to keep moist. Another option, and this is what I use at home, Park Seed, and there are many other products. The one I use is Park. This is a little spongy insert. It goes into a tray that is self-watering. It's got a styrofoam tray that these go into, and then it's sitting in a waterproof tray, and you just put a 1/4 inch of water in that. It's got a plastic dome, so they get the heat, the concentrated heat, which seeds need to germinate. And you take the top off once they're up, and especially if you're not home every day to go out and check on them a couple times a day, it's really good because it keeps them moist. And I will tell you, in really hot weather, if you're using something like that, the heat coming into that enclosed dome can actually fry the plant. So if it's really, really hot out, careful with that one.
What are those called again?
Which ones?
That.
That is a Park Seed starting. I don't know.
Okay.
A Park is a seed company, and then they sell a lot of different equipment as well. They're really, it's a big company that's been around for a long time.
Okay.
And then if you look at those, you might want to go to another site that sells absolutely everything you could possibly want, which I'm not going to name, and see what they have, because you might get something very similar that's less expensive. We are almost supposed to be done, so let's speed it up, right? Okay, heat tolerance. When you're doing your spring garden, there are some varieties that will say that they are heat tolerant. And that's good, because maybe your harvesting time frame in April and May, maybe you get a little more off of that plant because of that. I know it also works with green beans. You look for the varieties that are heat resistant. Okay, so you've got my plant handout. Not everybody has to be as OCD as I am, but that's just a sample of, how you can collect that information and then look at it in one place and decide, yeah, this I want, this is not going to work. We talked about the seeds and the cuttings. So I think that's all I have to tell you right now. Let's see if anybody has a question. Yes, ma'am.
Is it too late right now to buy a plant and have it, what size of a plant would be a good size to buy right now to plant?
Where would you be planting?
Like 20 minutes from here south, or where in the garden?
Yeah.
Well, either way.
Garden or container?
Let's try container for starters.
Okay, container is better if it's movable for you. Because if we get that cold weather, you can just shoot it into some shelter, and you may be able to preserve it. I have big open beds and then I have big tubs. The open beds are really hard to protect once the plants are big. I just went blank.
If you could pick like one tomato plant right now, how big and what variety would you container right now?
Right now, I would probably go for something big, even maybe larger than this, but those tend to be really expensive on the market, like $20 or something. I don't know if you get the return for your investment on something like that. We have some this size down there, $3. We have a bunch of them. And One variety we have is Everglades, which will even produce through the summer. It's a really tough little tomato. Very small cherry tomatoes, sweet and delicious. They do tend to tear as you're taking them off the vine. Right at the top, you might get a little tear. So, just so you know everything about it, if you want to put it in salads, you want to pick it the day that you're going to eat it. Lots of times they don't make it into my house. Between me and the cattle, we kind of do some damage to them. But that might be a good bet for you. And I would containerize it at this time of year because you're looking at how many days. And that's critical with us being this close to December already. Yes, sir.
Soils and fertilizers. I see you got the Vigoro, but how about like a Miracle Grow and other products?
Yes, and again, I forgot a bunch of stuff I had set out on my patio. So this is a tomato brand. There's also one called Tomato Tone, which is organic if you're into that. And there's various types, and they're all good. Now I'll tell you, when I transplant, the diatomaceous earth goes in first. And first of all, I dig the hole and really soak it, because I don't want to be washing away the diatomaceous earth as soon as it's in there. So I get it all soaked, and then I put in the diatomaceous earth, then the plant, and I, as deeply as I can get it. And then this kind of thing, don't mix this into the soil, please. What happens with this is you've got it where if you mix it in, some of it's going to touch the roots. And you can burn your little baby plant doing that. So it's used as a side dressing. The other thing that happens when you put fertilizer directly into the hole, one thing that can happen is the plants get very, very happy there. It's really yummy. And then right outside of that planting hole, it's not as rich. And they'll get like to that border and stop. And it takes a while. They'll start again. They'll eventually go through, but you can slow the whole process down by putting a bunch of amendments directly into the hole. Worm castings are great. If you're doing composting, 12 inches of compost, a minimum of 30 days, and this is compost that it looks like dirt and it's ready to go. You put that in and you really work it into your soil, that will enrich it very nicely. And worm castings you can use in the first few inches. You can put a little bit of that on and kind of water it in after the plant is established if you think it's not looking great. Some of the fallacies people believe in, like, oh, I can put coffee grounds if I think it needs a more acidic soil, and I can put eggshells if I have blossom end rot. Does everybody know what that is? Your tomato is gorgeous. It's ripening. It's ready. You're going to pick it in 2 days. And then all of a sudden, there's this big, crusty black spot on the bottom, and it's jagged edge. It's getting bigger and bigger and kind of moving up, and your tomato is starting to look shorter. That's blossom end rot. It's calcium that's causing that, a lack of calcium. So don't just go throw eggshells in. It takes way too long for that to break down. It will not help you at this point. But you can add some calcium that you get at the store, like bone meal and stuff like that. Follow the directions. Here's a clue that's going to cost you $3, and it may really change your gardening. Your soil needs a specific pH for a tomato. Generally, it's between 6 and 6.5 to 6.8. How do you know if you have that pH?
pH strips.
And what do you use to test? Anybody?
Like
no?
paper testing strips?
Okay, maybe.
I have a little meter I stick in the ground.
That's good too. That's really good. We will test your soil for you. And you fill out a little form. It's brief, but you're going to tell us what you plan to plant in that soil. And you get a little sandwich baggie, and you go down 6 inches in the ground and pull some soil out, put it in the baggie. Then go to another spot in the same bed and pull some out and put it in there. And you do that in 4 spots, down to 6 inches, put it in a baggie, come in here, fill out the form. We will try to turn it around within a week to 2 weeks. And we will tell you, if you say, I'm growing tomatoes in this soil, we will tell you if it's proper pH, and if it isn't, exactly what you need to put in there in what amount. So that is a real simple thing that's going to change your life. Come to the front desk any day between 9:30 and 3:30, and that's just the other side of this building. Before you get to the auditorium, you can tell because we have it really nicely marked. And just come on in. We are happy to help anybody. You also can come in if just you have questions or you have something on your plant that you don't know what it is or what to do. Bring a leaf or a branch, little cutting, and a picture of the entire plant. You come in and we'll look it up and we'll figure it out for you if we can. So you get your pH. I've tested it. I have proper pH. I've dug my hole. It has diatomaceous earth in it. I've trimmed off some. I've set my plant in there. Okay, put the dirt around it and make sure it's patted down really nicely, tight up around the stem and everything. Don't break the roots. Don't go insane with this. But, you know, make sure it's very stable in there. Then I get something called Job's tomato spikes. They're little tiny compressed plant food, and you put one a few inches from the stem on each side. Not, again, in your planting hole itself, but that's there and that's going to release over time. When you first put your plant in, you can also do something called, there are liquids that you mix with water, and they're like quick start things for transplants specifically. Those are great. You can also do, and Miracle Grow was mentioned, they do make a tomato food. You can use this. This I like. This is Jack's Classic Tomato Feed. And it not only has the NPK that you need, but it has micronutrients, and those things can be really critical for your plants. A lot of times you think it's diseased, and it's actually lack of some nutrient. So I spread this around, not real close. I water it in with this stuff, and it has the spikes there for overtime. Then you can side dress this as often as it calls for on the package. Do we have a question back there?
Oh, no.
No,
Okay.
not me.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I've got compost bin here, it's been on it for 6 months. I have another one at her house in Canada.
You have what?
Compost.
Okay, go ahead.
I would put coffee grounds in,
Yes.
eggshells, and you're
Yes.
telling me no?
No. I'm glad you asked that because, you know, let me clarify it. They do belong in compost, as well as animal manure, green manure. It's just that it takes time for that to break down. Down here, we're looking at, the university recommends 90 to 120 days.
Yeah, we're looking at 6 months for us, so.
Okay, so you would do this in May or June after you pull your plants out, and it's just brutal when you have to pull out a plant that's, you know, maybe looks like you're going to get a few more tomatoes. You have to be, you know, really tough on that so that you have time to test the soil, add the nutrients that are needed, and add anything else that you're going to put in there, like compost, like eggshells, like coffee grounds. Give it time to work down, and you will have a beautiful bed. If you're doing a lot of that composting and stuff, maybe you want to test it again just before you put your plants in. I mean, like I said, it's $3. So you can take advantage of that. Do we have some more questions?
Where is your booth located that we can buy a plant?
Oh, we are right down the hill.
Oh.
What we've been finally allowed to do, the county has allowed us to let our customers in there. So we don't have to put the plants up in the parking lot. They're in their natural environment where we grow them. You're going to find things you probably can't find anywhere else or would be really tough to find. And you will also find better prices than what you're going to find out in the world. We are nonprofit. Our whole mission has to do with educating the community. So what we earn down here from our sweat equity, we put into producing classes and mobile help desks and all kinds of programs. So do we have more questions?
Have you heard of putting a banana peel attached to a tomato plant? I know we did it up at her house, and I'm like,
Really? I have not, but you know, what is in banana peels?
Potassium.
Exactly, right. I think one thing you have to be careful with about your tomato plants is don't let it go too heavy on the nitrogen in comparison to the other elements. That's not good for them.
just get a big green plant.
Yeah. I hadn't heard about the bananas, but I know we grow staghorn ferns here. And we have one of our guys eats a banana every day. He saves the fields, he brings them in. Once a week, he sticks them down into the crown of the staghorn fern, and they really thrive on that. Do we have anybody else? Yeah?
Go ahead.
Well, some friends of mine were looking for a certain type of apple. I wish I could remember the name, but how well do apples grow in this area?
Not well, no.
Gotta go to New York.
I don't know anybody that's growing them. I know there are catalogs that will tell you they work in this zone. I have bought, when I was just moved up here from Miami, and I thought, oh good, it's cooler, I can get some apples. Boy, did I spend money on ordering apple trees. You're not going to find them for sale here, and there's a reason for that. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm with you. I wish I could.
I don't remember the name of it, but they just said they're developing a new one.
The University of Florida is terrific. Seriously, if you're comfortable with running queries, any topic you're looking for, you can add the plus sign in University of Florida, or, ready? You might want to write this down. IFAS, which is the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, or EDIS, which is really focused on home growers. Your plant name plus that. Those are all University of Florida sites, and I'm sorry I didn't mention that up front. I think that's important for you to be able to do your own research. When you go to buy a plant at the nursery or at the big box store, does it tell you all this stuff? You never see disease resistance on these packets, and you're going to have to do some research for yourself, but we all have a computer in our pockets now, so it's not as hard as it used to be. I have a little booklet with pictures of different insects that get into your tomatoes. If you flip over this page, you're talking tomatoes. Oh, I forgot to tell you one thing. When you plant in a bed, put your tallest plants on the north side. Plant north to south if you possibly can. Anyway, this, I don't know if you can tell, but this is a tomato hornworm. Anybody familiar with that?
Yes.
They're green, they get big, they eat a lot of plant leaves, not just tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, and the markings on them and the coloration of them is like, it's an example of nature being just perfect when one little species manages to survive. If they're on your plant, you may be staring right at them, especially if they're smaller, because they look like the crinkles on the leaves, and they hang from the underside of the leaves, so unless you're going like this, you may not see them.
They're this big.
They can be, but initially they're tiny little guys when they first hatch. But you can I can look at them when they're that big and not see them. You can tell because they defecate and they're really big black granules, let's call them. And so this guy, he is really bad news, but you can usually tell because you'll see leaves just stripped off, and they like the tender new growth. That's the best. And they go down into the plant at night and come back. They go down during the day, they eat through the nighttime hours, and if you're out there early in the morning, you can usually pick them out and just kill them. Don't use anything for them. This is interesting because you see the white stuff hanging off of this caterpillar? It's all over its back. I saw that and I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, because I usually just grab them off, and I was like, I'm not touching that. So I got a scissors and cut the little thing off with it and stomped on them, and then I did some research and found out that there is a parasitic wasp that lays its eggs on the body, on the top of it. And when those eggs hatch out, they're going to kill some more tomato hornworms for you. Now there is, if you're having caterpillar problems, any kind of worms chewing on the fruit or the leaves, there is an organic treatment, Bacillus thuringiensis. BT might be on the label, or it'll say caterpillar and worm stuff. It is organic, it's not going to hurt the food. You can even spray it the day you're going to eat it. And that is absolutely critical to have in my arsenal for these guys. But yeah, I mean, seriously, nature's got a lot of stuff going on, it's pretty good.
Have you found the cherry tomatoes grow much easier down here?
No.
No?
Oh, we've had beautiful cherries.
Yeah, we have
It
two. They won't
depends.
die. They
I've
keep
grown
coming back.
what it's called the cherry tomatoes in 100s, and they keep reproducing themselves, and they grow all year round.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's Sweet 100, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Good.
And
That's
they
good to
just
know.
the tomato plants, you can't possibly pick them all. All the tomatoes off, and they fall on the ground, and they reproduce and come back up.
Oh,
and
nice.
Now they're
That's
enough to
I
very,
supply the
very
neighborhood
nice.
of plants, because
Yeah, you and me both.
you can't do enough of them.
I grow a lot of those small tomatoes. I love the salad bowl having yellow pears in it and a yellow grape tomato and a red grape tomato and some round ones that are almost purple and some that are chocolate colored. I love that mixture in the salad, so I grow a lot of them. Some of them do really great. Juliet is on my garden plan that you have a copy of. That is superb. The thing with cherry tomatoes is because they produce more quickly generally than the big tomatoes, they don't need as long, right? You can get more of them before disease takes them down. Something like yellow pear, I grow it every year, and every year it becomes diseased and I lose it. I don't like to use a lot of chemicals in my garden. I'm not saying they're bad at all. Don't take that as a recommendation for me. That's just me. I've had cancer and I feel like I'm not taking chances with growing my own food for its purity and then putting something bad into it. So when you use any product, you have to read the label. Not only is it critically important to the product that you're growing, it is illegal to use these pesticides in any way that is not explicitly explained on the label. And as you're using anything on them, make sure you look to see that it can be used on edibles. And on some of them, sometimes, you're going to have to wait a week or something after you put your pesticide on your plant. Like the BT, I told you can eat it the same day. But that's the problem I have with cherry tomatoes. Because they're small and they're fast, there hasn't been a lot of work hybridizing them for disease resistance, and it's not going to stop me. I just love those little guys. But I grow every color you can imagine and every size. I mean, you'll see on that chart how I organize them. I love yellow tomatoes. They have less acid. And people who can't eat the red tomatoes, I mean, I had a friend and the doctor told her, well, go get some yellow ones. You can eat yellows. And they're delicious. Okay, what else? Anybody else?
Do you have that one Everglades tomato here?
Yes, ma'am. This is one.
May I buy one from you?
Oh, please, just walk down the hill. And the first section you get to is edibles.
Okay.
There are some interesting edibles down there that I think you'll have a rough time finding them if you're interested. This I'm going to use for another class in a couple of hours, so you'll have to go down there and pick one out for yourself. There's little ones for $1. I wouldn't go there right now this time of year. I would try for the 1 gallon container.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the different type of tomatoes, the value of the lycopene and stuff, does it vary or is it pretty much the same?
It really does. I mean, the Tasty Lee is really high in those varieties, and sometimes it just depends on the color. You're not going to have as much lycopene in a yellow tomato, but they have everything is kind of advantageous here, a little disadvantageous in this aspect. But yeah, that definitely can vary. And if you're really interested in the nutrition, then go into researching it from that aspect. Okay, so I told you about UF, honest God, I talked about the tomato research, the strawberries that we have for sale down here, Sensation, they developed those. This is a major, major agriculture university, both for commercial and for the home grow. I mean, they are really big in this, and they have a huge group of scientists that work on different plants and develop plants. So they are just great for doing things that make our lives better. And I don't know if you're interested in other kinds of plants, but they work on a lot of different plants. And the strawberries, by the way, this is the right time for them. You're going to be harvesting December, January into February. $1 a pot down there, if there's any left. They were really going. And we had hundreds. So, did everybody sign in for me? And if you're willing, did everybody fill out one of these for me? Everybody get all the handouts you want? And keep the seeds if you like. Leave them on the table if you don't. Thank you so much, guys. It was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.